The next morning, Maya arrived at the hotel before sunrise. The lobby was quiet, bathed in the soft red glow of the Martian dawn filtering through the crystal panels. She walked steadily, her steps calm and deliberate. Today was the final stage of her plan, to ensure the hotel would operate flawlessly, with every staff member understanding their responsibilities, and with systems in place to prevent mistakes or hesitation. The staff had gathered in the administrative area, their expressions a mixture of determination and nervous anticipation. Maya addressed them without raising her voice, her calm presence commanding attention. "Good morning," she said. "Over the past few days, we have learned valuable lessons. We have faced challenges and turned them into opportunities for growth. Today, we will solidify what we have learned and ensure that this hotel operates at the highest level of efficiency, responsibility, and fairness." She paused to let the words sink in, looking at each employee in turn. Some nodded slowly, acknowledging the importance of the moment. Maya continued, "The hotel represents the best of human capability. Technology assists us, but it is human judgment, responsibility, and action that ensure success. We will now put all of these lessons into practice." Maya tapped her tablet, and a large holographic display rose from the central console. It projected a complete overview of the hotel's operations, including staff locations, guest assignments, and automated systems. The interface allowed Maya to monitor every action in real time. She explained the process to the staff. "From now on, all tasks will be monitored by the AI system. Decisions must be made responsibly, efficiently, and in line with hotel protocols. Any deviation will be addressed immediately. This is not a threat, but a tool to ensure that everyone succeeds." The employees listened attentively. Maya could sense their growing confidence. Most had adapted to the systems over the past days, but a few remained hesitant. She knew that today would be the true test of their capabilities and their commitment to excellence. The first exercise involved a sudden influx of guests. The AI system projected holograms of visitors arriving with complex requests, multiple room changes, dietary restrictions, urgent service needs, and last-minute bookings. Staff members had to act quickly, assigning rooms, coordinating automated staff, and communicating clearly with the guests. Maya observed carefully. She noticed subtle improvements in behavior. Employees who had previously hesitated now acted decisively, their actions deliberate and precise. One young woman efficiently reassigned a room while communicating politely with a holographic guest, demonstrating confidence and clarity. Maya nodded approvingly. This was exactly the behavior she wanted to see. Another team encountered a simulated system error that delayed automated room service. Initially, they looked uncertain, but Maya intervened calmly, guiding them through the process. She emphasized the importance of remaining calm under pressure and using the AI system as a tool, not a crutch. Slowly, the team resolved the issue, their confidence growing with each correct decision. Throughout the morning, Maya alternated between observation, instruction, and practical guidance. She reinforced the lessons of the past days: clear communication, decisive action, calm thinking, and responsibility. She also emphasized fairness and integrity. "Excellence is not about speed alone," she said. "It is about making the right choices, treating guests and colleagues with respect, and ensuring that the systems we have in place are used effectively." By midday, Maya felt confident that the staff had internalized the lessons. She decided it was time to address those who had resisted or hesitated during previous challenges. The employees who had struggled were called forward individually. Maya explained that compliance, responsibility, and understanding were essential. She reviewed their actions, pointing out both successes and areas for improvement. Some employees were nervous, expecting criticism, but Maya's tone remained calm and constructive. "This is not punishment," she explained. "It is guidance. You have the ability to succeed. Use the tools, follow the protocols, and make responsible decisions. Those who cannot do so will not continue in operational roles. This is fair and necessary for the success of the hotel and the satisfaction of our guests." As the afternoon approached, Maya introduced the final exercise: full operational control under her supervision. The staff were required to manage all aspects of hotel operations for several hours. Every guest interaction, room assignment, and service request was monitored. The AI system provided feedback in real time, highlighting correct actions and errors, The employees worked with focus and precision. Tasks that had caused hesitation in the past were now handled efficiently. Guests, real and simulated, received prompt attention and courteous communication. Maya moved among the staff, offering guidance, clarifying protocols, and reinforcing correct actions. Slowly, the last traces of hesitation disappeared. Confidence and competence were evident in every movement, every decision, and every interaction. At the end of the exercise, Maya called all staff together. She looked at each employee carefully, noting their progress. Today demonstrates that you have learned, adapted, and are capable of performing at the highest standards. You have shown responsibility, clear judgment, and the ability to work with technology effectively. These qualities are essential for the continued success of this hotel. She paused, allowing the weight of her words to settle. However, we must ensure that excellence is maintained. From now on, all staff will undergo daily briefings, continuous training, and real-time monitoring. This is not to punish but to guide and support you. The standards we have established will remain, and I expect every employee to meet them consistently. The employees nodded, some smiling, others looking serious but resolute. Maya could feel the transformation. The hotel was no longer at risk of disruption due to hesitation or resistance. Staff had learned to act decisively, communicate clearly, and use the AI system effectively. Maya then addressed the entire group with a final, important message. Leadership is not about authority alone. It is about responsibility, integrity, and the courage to act correctly even in difficult situations. The hotel represents the best of human capability when these qualities are combined with technology and preparation. You have learned these lessons. Apply them every day. She paused, her eyes scanning the room. Excellence requires continuous effort. There will always be challenges, unexpected situations, and decisions to make. But if you act responsibly, follow protocols, and use the tools available, you will succeed. This hotel, our guests, and your professional growth depend on it. The employees nodded, their confidence and understanding evident. Maya felt a quiet satisfaction. The staff had learned, adapted, and grown. They understood their responsibilities, the importance of technology, and the value of clear communication and decisive action. The hotel was now stronger than ever, prepared to provide the highest level of service while maintaining fairness and efficiency. As the Martian sun set, casting long shadows across the atrium, Maya walked to the central console. She reviewed the AI logs, confirming that every task had been completed correctly, every issue resolved, and every guest satisfied. The hotel was operating flawlessly, and the staff had demonstrated their capability. Maya reflected on the past few days. The challenges she had faced had tested her leadership, the staff's adaptability, and the systems she had built. But through calm authority, guidance, and the careful combination of human intelligence and technology, she had ensured that the hotel would continue to thrive. She allowed herself a moment of quiet pride. The hotel was more than a building. It was a demonstration of human capability, fairness, and excellence. The staff had grown, learned, and understood the standards required for success. The systems were in place to guide, support, and monitor, ensuring that mistakes and hesitation would no longer disrupt operations. Maya looked out over the city of domes and towers, stretching across the Martian landscape. The red dust shimmered in the fading light, reflecting her own sense of accomplishment and determination. She knew that leadership was an ongoing practice requiring attention, patience, and decisive action. The hotel was now prepared for the future, and she was ready to face any challenge that came next. Before retiring for the evening, Maya addressed the staff one final time. Remember the lessons of the past days. Responsibility, clear judgment, communication, and integrity are the keys to success. Technology is a tool to support you, but it is your decisions, your actions, and your commitment that ensure excellence. The hotel depends on you, and I believe in your capability to uphold these standards. The employees listened attentively, understanding the importance of her message. They had seen her guidance, learned from her example, and experienced the consequences of hesitation and poor decisions. Maya had not only corrected errors but had instilled confidence, competence, and a sense of responsibility that would guide them every day. As the evening drew to a close, Maya returned to her suite. She looked out once more at the Martian horizon, reflecting on the transformation that had taken place. The hotel was now a model of efficiency, fairness, and human capability enhanced by technology. The staff were trained, confident, and capable, Guess would experience the highest level of... Mara's heels clicked sharply on the marble floor of her office lobby as she made her way to the black electric car waiting outside. She checked her watch for the third time in 5 minutes. The city was alive with the usual morning rush, and Mara's mind raced faster than the traffic she knew she would face on the way to the skyscraper where her billion-dollar deal awaited. Her company, Zephyr Technologies, was about to sign an agreement with multiple international partners, and Mara felt the weight of every decision pressing on her shoulders. One wrong move could cost her company more than she had ever imagined. Her driver, Kofi, already waiting with the car door open, nodded politely. Kofi was tall, calm, and always seemed to carry himself with quiet confidence. Mara had known him for 3 years. She had always thought of him as reliable, polite, and observant, but nothing more than that. To her, he was a driver who knew the city well. She hardly considered him a person whose skills could rival her own in business. "Morning, Mara," Kofi said. His voice was calm, measured. He held the car door steady as she slid inside, placing her briefcase on the seat beside her. "Morning," Mara replied without looking at him. She was already checking her phone, scrolling through the notes she had prepared for the meeting. "Traffic better not slow us down. I cannot afford to be late." "Every minute counts today." Kofi nodded, starting the electric engine with a quiet hum. The car pulled smoothly into the city streets. Mara's fingers tapped against her phone as she rehearsed her opening speech for the negotiation. She had memorized every figure, every clause, every potential objection, and every way to respond. She prided herself on preparation, on anticipating every possibility. In her mind, she had planned this meeting down to the last second. "You always plan everything," Kofi said softly from the driver's seat, as if reading her thoughts. Mara glanced at him briefly. "Of course I do. A deal like this cannot be left to chance." Kofi's eyes stayed on the road. "Sometimes chance has a way of surprising even the best prepared people." Mara laughed lightly, dismissing the idea. "Not today, Kofi. Today everything will go according to plan." She returned to her phone, scanning the emails she had received from the international partners. There were messages from colleagues in China, Germany, Brazil, Japan, and several other countries. Each had its own notes, clarifications, and demands. Mara had spent weeks preparing, translating, and rechecking every detail. She felt ready. The city traffic began to thicken. Mara sighed, realizing they were approaching the worst part of the morning rush. She gripped her briefcase tighter. "Do you know the fastest way?" she asked, a hint of challenge in her voice. "I do," Kofi replied calmly. "There is a route through the West District that saves about 10 minutes, but it is narrower." "You have to be comfortable with sharp turns," Mara smirked. "I trust your driving, but I hope your route doesn't add stress to the day." Kofi only smiled faintly. Mara, noticing the slight amusement in his expression, chuckled and shook her head. She didn't notice the small sparkle of patience and quiet intelligence in his eyes. As they drove, Mara began thinking aloud about the meeting. "The partners from Japan are particularly cautious," she said. "I need to be careful with the wording on the contract. Misunderstandings could ruin everything." Kofi nodded. "Language is more than words. Tone, context, and culture all play a role. I have read some of the documents you sent me. I can help if needed." Mara looked at him sharply, raising her eyebrows. "You help me? You're a driver, Kofi. This is a boardroom, not a city street. Leave the business to me." Kofi's smile remained calm, almost unreadable. "I understand." Mara returned to her phone, feeling slightly irritated by his suggestion. She shook her head, thinking about how unnecessary it was for him to make such a comment. Yet something in the calm way he spoke caught her attention. She could not place it. She pushed the thought aside and focused on her speech. The car turned into a narrower street as Kofi navigated expertly between slower vehicles. Mara held her breath, gripping the seat. "You drive like a professional race driver sometimes," she said, half in admiration, half in nervousness. "I prefer smooth, safe, and fast," Kofi replied. His eyes never left the road. "It gets you there on time without trouble." Mara relaxed slightly. She had been so absorbed in her notes and the looming stress that she had not realized the value of a driver like Kofi. He was not just skilled behind the wheel. He understood timing, precision, and patience. She still thought of him as a driver, but a tiny voice in the back of her mind suggested she might be underestimating him. The car finally approached the towering glass skyscraper where the meeting would take place. Mara could see the reflection of the rising sun on the glass panels. She took a deep breath and adjusted her jacket. "Here we go, Kofi, this is it." Kofi parked the car smoothly at the entrance. He opened the door for her as always. Mara stepped out and straightened her posture, exuding the confidence she needed to face the international partners. As she walked toward the elevator, she glanced back at Kofi. "Don't forget to wait for me. I may need a quick ride back after this meeting if things get complicated." "I will be here," he said, voice steady and reassuring. Mara ignored the twinge of respect she felt for him. She had more important things on her mind. The elevator doors closed, taking her up to the floor where the negotiation room awaited. She rehearsed her opening lines, unaware that a situation far beyond her expectations was about to unfold. In the car, Kofi sat quietly, watching the city move around him. He thought about the documents Mara had mentioned, about the partners and their cultural expectations. He knew the stakes were high, and he knew that words could either build bridges or destroy opportunities. He had spent years studying languages and cultures, mastering communication not for personal gain but to understand people. And now he sensed that his skills might be needed in a way Mara had never imagined. The morning sun reflected off the skyscrapers, and the city hummed with life. Inside the glass building, Mara was about to face her biggest challenge yet. Outside, Kofi waited, calm and ready, carrying a hidden strength that would soon change everything. Mara did not know it, but the next few hours would teach her lessons she had never learned in business school. She would discover that intelligence and talent could come from unexpected places, and that sometimes the person you least respect could hold the key to your greatest success. Mara stepped out of the elevator into the bright, polished conference room. The walls of glass reflected the sunlight, and the table stretched long and impressive, filled with executives from different countries. Each partner had a translator by their side, and the atmosphere felt tense. The meeting was supposed to start smoothly, but from the moment Mara entered, she sensed unease. "Good morning," she said, her voice steady and professional. "I am glad we could all meet today. I believe we can reach a mutually beneficial agreement." The partners nodded politely, but the translators began whispering quickly, translating every word. Mara noticed the subtle frowns and gestures of confusion among the delegates. The first problem appeared almost immediately. A partner from Germany, Mr. Brandt, raised a concern. "The contract wording regarding the technology licensing fee is unclear," he said in German. His translator repeated the sentence to Mara, but the wording seemed off. She knew the numbers were correct, yet the delegate seemed upset. Mara frowned. "I assure you the terms are standard and fair. Perhaps there is a misunderstanding in translation." The translator nodded and tried to explain, but the German partner shook his head, growing more frustrated. Mara glanced around the room. The Brazilian delegate was now pointing at the contract, speaking in rapid Portuguese. The Japanese partner looked tense, and the Chinese representative folded his arms. Every time Mara tried to speak, the translator struggled, and the message seemed to get lost. The room's atmosphere shifted from polite formality to visible tension. Mara's heart raced. She had rehearsed every line, every figure, every explanation, but now none of it seemed to work. She realized that despite all her preparation, the language and cultural differences were creating confusion she could not fix alone. She took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. "Let's go through each section slowly," she said. "We can clarify each point together." But even as she spoke, she noticed the delegates' expressions. They were frustrated, anxious, and impatient. Mara felt a wave of panic. Losing this deal would cost her company $1 billion. Every decision she had made, every strategy she had planned, depended on this meeting going smoothly. Now it felt like a storm she could not control. At that moment, Kofi appeared at the door. He had been waiting outside, as always. He stepped in quietly, his presence calm but noticeable. Mara's first reaction was irritation. She did not need a driver in a boardroom. This was her territory. "Kofi, please wait outside," Mara said firmly. "This is not your place." Kofi nodded, but his eyes scanned the room. He noticed the confusion, the miscommunication, the rising tension. He understood immediately what was happening. "May I help?" he asked politely. Mara laughed lightly, though it sounded forced even to her ears. "Help? Kofi, you drive me to work every day. You do not speak these languages fluently, and you do not negotiate billion-dollar contracts. Please wait outside." Kofi's smile was calm, almost unreadable. "I understand," he said quietly. But if you allow me, I can clarify the points and communicate with the partners directly. Mara's initial instinct was to refuse. She had spent weeks preparing for this. She did not want anyone else interfering. Yet as she looked at the faces of the delegates, she realized the situation was slipping from her control. Every minute of delay, every misunderstanding could destroy the deal. She hesitated. Pride clashed with practicality. Finally, she sighed. "Fine, Kofi, you can try. But do not make this worse." Kofi nodded once and stepped closer to the table. He spoke first in a deep, calm tone in Mandarin, addressing the Chinese representative. The delegate's eyes widened in surprise. Kofi switched seamlessly to Japanese, then Portuguese, then German. He spoke clearly, politely, and with precise understanding of each culture's nuances. The room fell silent. Mara could hardly believe what she was seeing. Kofi's words were not just translations. They were explanations that considered cultural expectations, tone, and context. The partners listened carefully, nodding as he clarified points of confusion. Mara leaned back in her chair, stunned. Every time Kofi spoke, tension eased. Misunderstandings melted away. What had seemed like a hopeless situation was suddenly manageable. A Brazilian delegate, Mr. Silva, smiled and said something to Kofi in Portuguese. Kofi replied fluently, explaining a complicated clause in the contract. The delegate nodded, satisfied. Mara's eyes widened. She realized that Kofi was not just translating. He was negotiating, smoothing disagreements, and building trust in real time. Even the German partner, Mr. Brandt, who had been frowning at the beginning, now seemed calmer. Kofi's explanation of the licensing terms in precise German clarified the misunderstanding completely. Mara realized the room had transformed. Where there had been tension and frustration, now there was focus and collaboration. She watched, amazed, as Kofi moved from delegate to delegate, switching languages effortlessly. He adjusted his explanations, ensuring that each partner understood the contract fully. He even anticipated questions, offering solutions before problems could arise. Mara felt a mixture of admiration and shame. She had laughed at him, dismissed him as just a driver, and yet here he was, saving the deal she had thought was entirely in her hands. She had underestimated his abilities completely. As Kofi spoke, Mara noticed other small details. He had observed the body language of the partners, understood their hesitations, and adjusted his tone to suit each one. He was patient, polite, and confident, yet completely unassuming. Mara realized that intelligence and skill did not always come with a title or position. Hours passed. The negotiation that had begun in chaos was now proceeding smoothly. Mara found herself learning from Kofi, noticing how he handled each partner with respect and precision. She began to assist where she could, answering questions in English while Kofi clarified in the partners' native languages. Together they formed an unexpected team. By midday, the crisis was nearly resolved. The final points of the contract were being reviewed, and the partners were nodding in agreement. Mara could hardly believe it. What had started as a potentially disastrous meeting was now on track to succeed. She leaned back in her chair and whispered to Kofi. I didn't know you could do this," Kofi smiled gently. "I have always studied languages and cultures. I never needed to show it until now." Mara felt a surge of respect for him. She realized how wrong she had been to judge him based on his job title. The truth was clear. Kofi's skill, patience, and intelligence had saved the company from a billion-dollar loss. The room was now filled with calm conversation. Partners discussed minor adjustments, but there was no longer confusion or tension. Kofi moved quietly among them, speaking in their languages, ensuring every detail was understood. Mara watched in awe. She realized that the lesson went beyond business. It was about people, talent, and respect. She had assumed that someone in a lower position could not contribute meaningfully. Kofi had proven that wrong in the most extraordinary way. As the meeting approached its final stage, Mara felt a mixture of relief and admiration. She knew the deal was safe. She knew that her company would benefit enormously. But more importantly, she had learned something invaluable about humility, judgment, and the hidden potential of people around her. Kofi glanced at her once, as if sensing her thoughts. He did not boast, did not demand recognition. He simply focused on the work, ensuring that every partner felt heard and understood. Mara realized that true skill was often quiet, unassuming, and effective. When the final signatures were prepared, Kofi translated the last instructions with flawless clarity. The partners smiled, shook hands, and praised the process. Mara, still in awe, could hardly believe the turnaround. A meeting that had started in confusion and potential disaster had been transformed into a celebration of understanding and collaboration, all because she had allowed Kofi to step in. Finally, Mara approached Kofi privately. "I owe you more than I can say," she admitted, her voice quiet. "I laughed at you, dismissed you, and yet you saved everything." Kofi smiled politely. "I did what I could. It was always about making sure people understood each other. That is the real value." Mara felt a deep sense of gratitude. She realized that in business, in life, in everything, intelligence and talent could appear in unexpected places. She had underestimated someone she thought she knew completely, and in doing so, she had almost lost everything. The crisis was over. The deal was safe. Mara had learned lessons that no textbook could teach. She now understood that respect, trust, and acknowledgement of human potential were as important as preparation, strategy, and skill. Kofi returned to his seat quietly, watching Mara handle the final details. She no longer saw him as just a driver. She saw him as a person whose knowledge, patience, and intelligence had changed the course of her company's future. For Mara, the day was no longer just about a billion-dollar deal. It was about understanding people, learning humility, and recognizing that sometimes the person you least expect could hold the key to your greatest success. The room, once tense and uncertain, now hummed with calm satisfaction. The partners were leaving, all smiles, impressed with the clarity and efficiency of the process. Mara and Kofi exchanged a quiet nod. The silent acknowledgement said everything: trust, respect, and recognition. The boardroom was quiet now, except for the soft murmurs of the international partners as they reviewed the final sections of the contract. Mara sat back in her chair, trying to process what had just happened. Only a few hours ago, the meeting had been spiraling into confusion and frustration. Delegates were on the verge of walking away, and her billion-dollar deal had seemed impossible to save. Yet thanks to Kofi, the impossible had become reality. She could still see him standing calmly near the center of the room, his posture relaxed but his attention sharp. Every so often he spoke softly in another language, ensuring clarity and understanding. He had navigated German, Portuguese, Japanese, Mandarin, Spanish, French, Arabic, Russian, and Italian with ease. Mara's mind struggled to comprehend how someone she had dismissed as just a driver possessed such extraordinary skill. She leaned forward slightly and watched him interact with the partners. Kofi's expressions were gentle but focused. His tone adapted to each person, never too formal, never too casual. He didn't just translate words. He communicated meaning. He anticipated questions, softened objections, and even explained complex cultural expectations that Mara herself had not fully understood. Mara felt a mix of awe and humility. Her pride had made her blind. She had laughed when he offered help, assuming that negotiation and languages were beyond his reach. Yet now she realized she had been wrong. Kofi's intelligence and understanding had saved not just the deal, but her company's future. The Japanese partner, Ms. Tanaka, spoke softly in Japanese, her translator pausing as Kofi responded fluently. Mara watched the interaction closely. Kofi didn't just translate. He explained the reasoning behind certain clauses, aligned them with the partner's expectations, and even suggested minor adjustments to make everyone feel respected. Mara's heart raced as she understood the full scale of what he was doing. "Impressive," she whispered under her breath, almost to herself. Kofi glanced at her briefly and gave a small nod, acknowledging her words without arrogance. Mara's pride was slowly being replaced by genuine respect. She realized that leadership wasn't about being the smartest person in the room. Leadership was about recognizing talent wherever it appeared, about trusting those who had skills that complemented your own. The room was transforming. Where confusion had once ruled, clarity now prevailed. Delegates were smiling, nodding, and even exchanging friendly gestures with one another. Kofi had not only clarified language misunderstandings, but had also bridged cultural differences that Mara hadn't fully appreciated. The negotiation that had seemed doomed to failure was now on the path to success. Mara thought about her own preparation. She had studied figures, charts, and strategies, Yet none of it had mattered until Kofi stepped in. She realized that intelligence alone was not enough. Success required perspective, understanding, and the ability to connect with people on a deeper level. Kofi had demonstrated all of these qualities effortlessly. As she watched him, she noticed the subtle ways he engaged with each partner. With the German delegate, he maintained formal respect while explaining details clearly. With the Brazilian delegate, he used a warmer, more familiar tone, building trust and comfort. With the Japanese and Chinese partners, he was precise, patient, and culturally aware. Every adjustment was deliberate, yet it appeared completely natural. Mara leaned back in her chair, trying to absorb it all. She had underestimated him. She had assumed that a driver, no matter how polite or intelligent, could not contribute meaningfully to a billion-dollar negotiation. She had been wrong. Kofi was more than a driver. He was a communicator, a strategist, and a problem solver. He had the rare combination of skill, patience, and humility that made him invaluable. She felt a pang of guilt for her earlier dismissal. She had laughed at him, underestimated him, and even mocked the idea that he could help. Now she realized how foolish she had been. But alongside the guilt, there was admiration. Kofi had not let her judgment affect his focus. He had acted with quiet confidence, and the results were undeniable. The room's atmosphere continued to shift. Delegates who had been tense were now relaxed, discussing minor adjustments and final clarifications. Mara saw Kofi handle each conversation with care, ensuring that no one felt rushed or ignored. His knowledge of languages was remarkable, but what impressed her more was his understanding of human behavior. He could sense hesitation, anticipate questions, and address concerns before they became obstacles. Mara's thoughts drifted to the cultural differences she had overlooked. In her preparation, she had assumed that clear English and standard business practices would be enough. She had not considered the nuances of tone, phrasing, or cultural expectations. Kofi had accounted for all of these factors instinctively. She realized that her view had been limited by her assumptions. He had expanded it. As the meeting approached its conclusion, Kofi guided the partners through the final sections. He explained the technical terms, clarified financial arrangements, and even suggested minor revisions that made everyone feel respected. Mara watched amazed as each delegate responded positively. The tension that had dominated the morning was gone, replaced by cooperation and mutual understanding. Finally, the last signatures were ready. Mara felt a wave of relief. The billion-dollar deal was secure. She looked at Kofi, who had remained composed throughout, and she understood something profound. Success was not just about preparation or intelligence. It was about recognizing talent, respecting others, and allowing people to use their skills fully. Kofi had done all of this effortlessly. Mara stood and approached him. "Kofi," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion, I don't know how to thank you. You saved this deal. You saved everything." Kofi smiled politely. "I only did what I could," he said. "It was about making sure people understood each other." "That is what mattered most." Mara shook her head. "No, you did more than that. You turned what could have been a disaster into a success. You were brilliant, patient, and precise. I underestimated you completely." Kofi's calm demeanor did not change. Sometimes people do not see potential until it is needed. What matters is the outcome, not recognition. Mara realized that humility was another quality he possessed in abundance. He did not seek praise or status. He had acted because he understood the value of knowledge and communication. Mara felt a deep sense of gratitude and admiration. She knew that she had learned a lesson she would never forget. The international partners were now finishing their discussions, laughing softly, and exchanging business cards. Mara watched as they left, each one satisfied and impressed with the clarity and efficiency of the process. She knew that Kofi's intervention had not only saved the deal, but had also strengthened her company's reputation internationally. She turned to Kofi once more. "I want you to know that I will never make the mistake of underestimating you again. You have skills that far exceed what anyone could expect from your position." Kofi nodded quietly. "Thank you. I believe that people should be valued for what they can contribute, not the title they hold." Today that principle mattered. Mara felt a mixture of humility and inspiration. She realized that leadership was not about being the smartest person in the room. Leadership was about recognizing the abilities of others, empowering them, and allowing them to shine. Kofi had demonstrated this principle perfectly. As she gathered her things and prepared to leave, Mara reflected on the events of the day. She had been so focused on her own skills and preparation that she had failed to see the value of those around her. Kofi had reminded her that intelligence, patience, and understanding could come from unexpected places. She had learned that true talent was often quiet, unassuming, and effective. Walking out of the conference room, Mara felt a renewed sense of purpose. She knew that her company had not only secured a billion-dollar deal, but had also gained something even more valuable, a lesson in humility, respect, and the power of human potential. Kofi had shown her that greatness could come from anyone, regardless of title or position. Outside, the city buzzed with life. Mara glanced at Kofi, who opened the door for her as always. She smiled genuinely this time, not just out of politeness, but out of respect and gratitude. "Kofi," she said softly, "I want you to know that today, you changed the way I see the world and the people around me. I will never forget it." Kofi gave a small nod, his expression calm but warm. "That is all I could hope for," he replied. Mara understood that the day had been more than just a business success. It had been a revelation. She had learned to recognize hidden potential, to value intelligence and skill wherever it appeared, and to trust those who had the ability to make a difference. Kofi had been that difference, and she knew that her company, and perhaps even her own leadership, would never be the same. As they stepped into the car to return to the office, Mara felt a sense of peace and clarity. The crisis had been resolved, the deal secured, and a powerful lesson had been learned. She knew that from this day forward she would never judge someone by their position alone. She had seen firsthand that greatness often comes from unexpected places, and that true intelligence combines skill, patience, and humility. Kofi started the car and drove smoothly through the city streets. Mara looked out the following morning, Zephyr Technologies' office buzzed with energy. News of the successful billion-dollar deal had already spread across the company. Employees talked excitedly about the negotiation that had seemed impossible just a few days ago. Everyone knew that the turnaround had not been due to technology, strategy, or luck alone. It had been Kofi. Mara walked through the office with a quiet pride and a thoughtful smile. She had spent the night reflecting on the events of the past days. The morning meeting that had nearly ended in disaster had become a defining moment, not just for the company but for her as a leader. She had learned lessons she would never forget: the importance of humility, the power of understanding, and the value of recognizing talent wherever it appeared. Her team noticed her mood. "Mara, you seem different," Lena said, handing her the morning reports. "You look calmer, happier." Mara smiled. "I have learned something important," she said. "Leadership is not about knowing everything or being the smartest person in the room. It is about seeing the potential in others and empowering them to shine. Today we will celebrate someone who embodies that principle." She motioned for Kofi to join her at the main hall. The staff watched with curiosity as he entered, calm and composed as always. Mara stepped forward, her eyes meeting his. "Kofi," she began, her voice clear and strong, "I want everyone here to hear something. The billion-dollar deal we recently secured could have been lost. Misunderstandings, language differences, and cultural barriers almost caused a disaster. But one person turned that situation around." The office fell silent. All eyes were on Kofi. "That person is Kofi," Mara continued. "He speaks 9 languages, understands cultures, and handled every challenge with skill, patience, and intelligence. He clarified every misunderstanding, communicated flawlessly with our international partners, and saved the deal. Without him, Zephyr Technologies could have lost everything." The room erupted in applause. Employees approached Kofi, shaking his hand, expressing admiration and offering congratulations. He responded with quiet politeness, never seeking attention or praise. Mara watched, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. She realized that this recognition was not just about celebrating a job well done. It was about affirming the value of talent, dedication, and human potential. Mara continued, "Today, we recognize that leadership is not just about a title. True leadership is about recognizing ability, empowering people, and trusting them to make a difference. Kofi has shown us all how that works in practice." Thomas, one of the senior executives, stepped forward. I think we can all agree that Kofi has set an example for everyone here. His skills, patience, and humility are inspiring. We should all learn from him. Kofi nodded quietly, acknowledging the praise without arrogance. Mara felt a renewed sense of respect for him. He had not only saved a billion-dollar deal, but had also taught everyone in the room a powerful lesson about leadership, respect, and human potential. Later that day, Mara called a meeting with her executive team. "I want Kofi to lead our international relations division officially," she said. "He will handle global communications, negotiations, and partnerships. His knowledge of languages and cultures is invaluable. This is not just a reward. It is an opportunity for the company to benefit fully from his skills." The team agreed unanimously. Everyone had witnessed Kofi's brilliance firsthand, and they knew he was the right choice. Mara felt a deep sense of satisfaction. This decision was more than a recognition of talent. It was a step toward changing the culture of Zephyr Technologies. From this day forward, employees would understand that their abilities mattered more than their title, and that respect, skill, and dedication were the true measures of value. Kofi accepted the role with his usual calm demeanor. "I will do my best to contribute to the company's success," he said. "I believe that understanding people and communicating clearly can achieve great things." Mara nodded. "And we will support you every step of the way. Your work will help all of us grow." In the weeks that followed, Kofi's influence became even more apparent. He introduced new systems for global communication, trained staff in effective cross-cultural interaction, and personally guided international negotiations. The company thrived under his guidance. Deals that had once been slow or uncertain moved smoothly, and Zephyr Technologies' reputation for professionalism and cultural sensitivity grew rapidly. Mara observed these changes with pride. She realized that the company's success was not just due to technology or strategy. It was due to recognizing and empowering people like Kofi. She had learned to value skill, intelligence, and dedication above assumptions, and the results spoke for themselves. One afternoon, after a particularly successful negotiation with European partners, Mara and Kofi walked through the office together. Employees greeted Kofi warmly, and Mara noticed the respect and admiration in their eyes. She turned to him and said, "You have changed more than the outcome of a single deal. You have changed the way this company sees talent, potential, and leadership." Kofi smiled quietly. "I'm glad to help. It has always been my belief that everyone has potential. Sometimes it is hidden and sometimes it needs a moment to shine. I am happy that it benefits the company." Mara nodded. "And it has benefited us all. You have taught me a lesson I will carry for the rest of my life." Over the next few months, the company's culture shifted. Employees became more confident, knowing their abilities could be recognized and valued. Teams collaborated more effectively across departments and countries. Kofi's leadership had created an environment where talent could flourish, and Mara felt proud to be part of a company that truly valued people. During a company-wide meeting, Mara addressed all employees. "Today, we celebrate not just a successful deal, but the power of recognizing potential. Kofi has shown us that greatness can come from unexpected places. Let this be a lesson to all of us. Respect, value, and trust those around you. Everyone has something to contribute." Applause filled the room. Employees cheered for Kofi, who responded with his quiet, humble smile. Mara felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She knew that the recognition was not just symbolic. It was the start of a new era for the company. Later that day, Mara and Kofi stood by the large glass windows of her office, overlooking the city. The streets below were alive with movement, and the sun was beginning to set. Mara spoke softly. "Kofi, I want you to know that your work has changed the company, and it has changed me. I have learned so much from you about humility, respect, and the value of people." Kofi nodded. "I'm glad to help. It is my belief that understanding people and communicating clearly can achieve great things." "Today it has made a difference," Mara smiled. "You have made a difference beyond words. The company is stronger, more connected, and more successful because of you. And I am a better leader because of what I have learned from you." Kofi's eyes reflected quiet satisfaction. He had not sought recognition or reward, yet he had transformed the company, helped secure a billion-dollar deal, and taught an invaluable lesson in leadership. Mara knew that the success of Zephyr Technologies was not hers alone. It belonged to everyone who contributed, especially those whose talents were hidden until the right moment revealed them. The evening settled over the city, casting a warm glow across the office. Mara and Kofi stood together, watching as the lights of the buildings reflected in the streets below. The deal was complete, the company thriving, and the lesson learned. Mara understood that success was not just about strategy or intelligence. It was about people, about recognizing their potential and giving them the opportunity to shine. Kofi had shown her that lesson in the most extraordinary way. His quiet brilliance, patience, and intelligence had not only saved a billion-dollar deal, but had transformed a company's culture and a CEO's understanding of leadership. Mara knew she would carry that lesson for the rest of her career. As the city lights twinkled below, Mara felt a sense of peace and clarity. The recognition of Kofi's skills had created a ripple effect throughout the company. Employees were inspired, the culture had shifted, and Zephyr Technologies was stronger than ever. Mara realized that the true victory was not the deal alone, but the acknowledgement of hidden talent, the power of respect, and the understanding that greatness could appear in anyone. At any time, she turned to Kofi once more. "Thank you," she said simply. "For everything," Kofi smiled quietly, his calm presence steady. "It is my belief that when people understand and value each other, great things can happen. Today that belief has made a difference." Mara nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. She knew that Zephyr Technologies had achieved something more than a financial victory. It had achieved a cultural shift, one that valued skill, patience, humility, and human potential above all else. Kofi had been the catalyst, and Mara knew that his contribution would be remembered for years to come. As they left the office together, the city stretched out before them, vibrant and full of opportunity. Mara understood that the lessons learned from this experience would shape her leadership, the company's success, and the way she valued people forever. Kofi had saved a deal, transformed a company, and taught an extraordinary lesson in humility and respect.